Okay, I'm recording now, and I'm going to introduce Alexis to you guys. So Alexis, just like yesterday, there were so many people I met at the Callie Lindsay workshop. Well, Alexis is another one. She was at that first initial Callie Lindsay workshop that Callie ever did, and Alexis was there with me, and we bonded so fast. Like we are like eerily the same person in so many ways, and so we connected very, very naturally and just laughed and cut up together. We probably got on people's nerves. We didn't even care, did we, girl? We didn't care. But we had such a blast, and she has been such an encouragement to me in my business. We constantly are chatting back and forth, and I just love her. Her business is amazing. And she is going to be talking with you guys today about empowering women with boudoir and also jumping into in-person sales. And so I love that she's getting these topics combined in together. So Alexis, you have the floor, and I will give you a 10-minute warning when it's time for questions.
Perfect. Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me, Amy. I was so excited when I got your email. I was like, yes, this is Amy. I'm doing this. I love her. Anything she does is great and genuine and always goes off with a blast. So to just give a little bit of a background, I know you might have read my little description, but I have been doing photos for 10 years and boudoir for about like 6 or 7. So I actually started when I was 15 years old. So I've been doing it for a long time, which doesn't seem like that long because I'm only 25, but in theory, I have been doing it for a long time. So to kind of jump off into boudoir, if you're here, I'm going to kind of assume maybe you want to start trying boudoir, or you're kind of very briefly in the beginning stages of it. Boudoir can kind of be a scary topic and kind of like taboo thing to jump into, and I totally get it. Like I do, especially like when I started 6 or 7 years ago in rural Pennsylvania, people were like, what the heck is boudoir? And why are you doing such a thing? So I can totally understand like the stigma behind it and everything. And you kind of have to combat that and put out there what you're doing. You know, it can get a bad reputation. It is, like I said, depending on where you live. If you live maybe down in the South, it could be a little more like, whoa, what is that? And like for me, like I said, I live in rural Pennsylvania. I go to a fairly large church. People know I'm a photographer. At first they were like, you take half naked photos of women? And I was like, I do. And like, I really had to fight with that for a long time. And I don't know if it was my age or just kind of the idea that boudoir was super duper new and trying to make it normal. But you do kind of have to deal with that a little bit, at least I found, starting up and kind of getting past those stigmas of, you know, let's be real here. It's not porn, it's not raunchy, and it's not dirty. You know, you kind of have to define what boudoir means to you and to your clients. And especially because that's what you will attract. So, you know, if you want it to be those things, yeah, then it's gonna attract those things. But if you want it to be an empowering experience about loving your natural self, et cetera, then that's what you're gonna attract. So for me, when I define boudoir, and I'm not talking about like a dictionary definition. I don't even know what the dictionary definition of boudoir is because I don't care, because it's my own definition of it. So for me, it's kind of just this empowering experience for women of all ages and all sizes. And it kind of helps bring out their inner confidence and their inner goddess, I used to say all the time, and showing them to kind of love every inch of themselves. And that's also my goal. So with that being my goal and my definition of boudoir, I'm able to kind of attract women who want those things. So they want to be able to bring out their inner confidence, and they want to be able to love every inch of their bodies. And they know that me as a photographer, like I have a Facebook group of over 2,000 women. They know that like I don't go in and liquefy you to be something you're not, because that's not what I'm teaching. That's not what I'm producing in my boudoir photography work. I'm teaching you to love every inch of yourself. And this also helps them free their mind of the stigma of magazines, Hollywood, you know, what they have thought their whole life makes a woman and makes them love their body. So kind of making sure that you can personally define what boudoir means to you and what it's going to mean to your clients, I feel like is a super important step in starting off, because you kind of have to figure out what it means to you. Because if you don't know what it means to you, your clients are going to come in and be like, okay, so now what? If you're not confident in what you're doing, they're not going to be confident. So with that, like I said, I started 6-7 years ago, and I started in a hotel room. I did not have a studio. I didn't have a house yet. I was 19 years old. I was working out of a hotel a couple times a year. I kind of joined bonds a little bit with someone and was able to hook up with them and get a couple hotel rooms a year and be able to do like 5 to 10 boudoir sessions in a day. So it's possible. You don't have to do it out of a studio, out of your home. You can rent an Airbnb, you can rent a hotel to get started. I really recommend starting off with model calls. So if you've never shot boudoir, you cannot jump in thinking, oh, I've done bridal portraits. Oh, I've done senior portraits. No big deal. I know how to shoot a woman. No. It is truly so different. You have to think of how vulnerable they are. And you also have to think of, let's also put this into perspective. A bride is in a beautiful bridal gown, and boudoir is usually starting off in, okay, what do I get changed into first? So you kind of have to think about that vulnerableness there and put that into perspective. So when you kind of start off, you know, think of that model call and kind of prepare them that like, this is your first time doing this, you know, you're just starting out. You really want to see if you even like this, because it's really just not for everybody. Like, you're either going to love it, or you're probably going to hate it. Like, you have to figure out which one it is. And for me, I love it. Like, I have to say that if weddings went bygone tomorrow, I probably wouldn't be sad about it, because I love my boudoir clients. I get to connect with them on a personal level that far goes beyond any brides I've ever connected with. I love my brides, I do, but I get to connect with them so personally and get to kind of dig deep a little bit into who they are. And like, not to be weird, but like on an intimate level, you know, it's just so different. So kind of figuring out those model calls and getting to do them is a great way to start. So with model calls, you're not usually getting paid. You're just starting out. You're just trying to figure out, you know, you're usually paying for the hotels and possibly hair and makeup. You can always charge like a fee to cover the hair and makeup, and that just covers the hair and makeup, just so that you can kind of practice and get things down before you're actually starting to charge for boudoir. So with kind of all of that said, with starting your model call and all of that good stuff, you are literally the very first person they talk to, they see. Like, you're their rock. You are their first initial, I think I want to do this, and you have to encourage them right away. Yeah, girl, you can totally do this. You have this, you know, like, you don't have to worry about anything. I have everything under control. I have hair and makeup lined up for you. I have a location lined up for you. I have this guide for you that you can read about self-care the week of your session, what kind of outfits to bring, how many outfits to bring, come with dirty hair, don't come with dirty hair, whatever it is. You just want to prepare them so that they're coming in feeling like, okay, she knows what she's doing. I know what I'm doing as soon as I get there. I know what I'm doing leading up to this. I'm not sitting wondering, oh my gosh, I only shaved my legs 3 days ago. What if it was supposed to be yesterday? Are you going to see my stubble? No, like that's like, don't leave any questions for them. And if they do have questions, you know, make sure you're an open book and that they can ask them anytime, whether it's through text message or email. We try to push people towards email just because I do have a virtual assistant who you get to hear from later, Shannon. But I push people towards email just because it's a lot easier for me. But just making sure that you're kind of open and available whenever they might need you, because like I said, like this for a lot of women is super vulnerable. So they want to feel like you are there for them throughout this whole experience. You're kind of their best friend. Literally, when they're stripping down in front of you, you're kind of their best friend, and you have to act like that. So I often call myself a nurse and a little bit of a therapist. You know, you're not going to walk in my studio and have anything I haven't seen before. You're not going to surprise me. You're not going to make me think you are any less worthy of this experience. You are. So for me, you kind of just have to get into this mindset of like, not just photographer, but best friend, therapist, nurse. Like, it seems like a lot of roles, but it kind of is. Like I said, it is so vulnerable. So you have to kind of be there for them on every kind of level. So with that kind of topic of like therapist, nurse, best friend, comes the main goal throughout your shooting process, which is praise. It seems so simple, but I can't tell you how many women have come into my studio, you know, maybe having shot for someone else, or they tried to do it, you know, by themselves or whatever, and they hated it. They hated every second of it. Excuse me, it was an awful experience. They're trying to recover from it. They didn't like it. And oftentimes it's because they didn't get enough praise, which is mind-boggling to me. Maybe I'm just a super vocal person, but like after every single image, even if you make sounds, I'm like, oh my God, or like, yes, or you have to. It is mind-boggling to me to not do that. And you will see your clients' faces whenever you're taking a picture and you don't even show them yet. And you're like, girl, okay, like you can totally do this. Their attitude changes. And you get to physically see that right in front of you. And that is so rewarding, like so rewarding. So making sure you are constantly praising your client is one of the main parts of empowering them within their experience, not just beforehand, not during, even after. So during the experience, making sure that you're kind of complimenting them. If it's not after every image, after every couple minutes, just making sure to reassure them that you're doing such a good job. You look beautiful. This color is amazing on you. You know, I'm always throwing some millennial stuff out there. Yes, queen. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just always compliments galore. It'll seem like I literally will drink this whole thing, if not two, during a session because I'm talking so much. But it's because I'm praising them. And whether I'm talking about, you know, the praises or I'm just getting to know them, it's okay to stop and not take pictures. It seems weird at first, but it's so normal to me to just sit on a bed with a girl who's got a bra and underwear and Beyonce like, how's your husband today? What's he doing today? Are you guys going on a date later? Like, just hang out with them. That makes the experience so much more fun instead of being like this model experience that like they're kind of nervous about. This is more of, hey, I'm just hanging out with my friend. She's taking some fun photos of me and I'm feeling great. So with kind of praising them, you also want to show them some behind the scene photos. So I'm not just saying any old photo. You don't want it to be just any old photo, especially if you're just starting out. Like you want this to be like within the first 10 minutes, a really good photo. Like even you yourself is like, oh, okay, I'm kind of good at this. Like, you want it to be a good photo, and then you want to show them. And when you're showing them, be like, girl, look at how stunning you are in this. You were made for this. And they're going to be so in shock. Like, that's me. I look like that. You did that to me. And I'm like, girl, it's all you. All you. It really is. I'm just here taking your photos. But it's all about the posing and the angles. It is a completely different world when they are on a bed versus outside in a field. It's a completely different angle and posing. So oftentimes a really simple pose that you can get them into to start them off, like that is going to be a really good shot, is often sorry. A really good pose that you can start them off in, that's always going to be a good shot, I'm telling you, is just a good old lay on the bed, head back, facing you, and they're going to be at their slimmest when they're looking up at you and their body is elongated. Study, study, study poses, practice, practice, practice. That's where the model calls come in, and help them. Literally, one of the best things you could do is jump on that bed with them. Jump on that bed with them and be like, girl, I need you to lift your booty up like this, or I need you to arch your back like this. It is the best thing because they get to see you do it and it's fun. They get to see you do it so they don't feel dumb doing it themselves if you're just trying to talk them through it. Some girls will get it right away and you don't have to worry about it. But it's super helpful. Also, Josh is probably like, boudoir.
I know. I just looked at him and I was like, "This is hilarious that you're taking notes for that." Like we're laughing as we're.
I've seen my share of boudoir.
And scene.
So, you know, just showing them that, like, you can do this, I can do this, anybody can do this, like, let's go. And literally, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'm like, girl, raise your booty to Jesus. I will literally lift your hips up until it is where I need them to be. Like, you just have to get in there and, like, be totally comfortable with it. And I have been doing it for a long time. So, like I said, nothing phases me. So maybe it'll take you some time to work up to that, but you also have to remember they're super vulnerable. So if you're not being vulnerable and like doing things, then, you know, just do it. Like, there's literally nothing else I can tell you to do than just try it. Like, and you know, they're there. You're gonna touch them. Like, you're gonna fix their hair. You're gonna fix their bra strap. You're gonna help them. I can't tell you how many times I've helped them fix underwear or pulled a wedgie out of someone's butt. Like, literally just do it. So kind of helping them with those posing and those angles, work on it as much as you can. Look in the mirror, literally Pinterest things. If you have to have them on your phone, go for it. Whatever helps you get through those phases of not getting stuck and making sure that they are having a good experience. Because really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're on your phone. It matters if you're getting good photos of them and they're having a good experience. So with all of that, I could talk about boudoir all day. I also think it's really important that if you're going to start boudoir, that shortly after you have your own experience. It's sort of hard to preach to women to embrace their sexuality and their womanliness without ever doing it yourself. So, like, you kind of have to experience it, because I can't tell you how many times girls were like, have you ever done this? And at first I was like, no. And it was so awkward. It was so awkward for me to be like, you should probably do this, but also I've never done it before. So I really recommend getting the experience yourself. And of course, trying to go with someone that you really like and you really enjoy and you really like their work, because it might also be a business expense. So after your session, you want to make sure you compliment them one last time. Let them know they did such an amazing time and you had such an amazing time with them and they did so good and you can't wait to show them the final products. And here is where I'm also setting up another opportunity for them to talk about that reveal and ordering session that I have with them. So they already know. They've gotten their initial email, they've gotten a full pricing list, they have signed a contract, they have initialed next to that contract that there's a reveal and ordering appointment, that they know that there's their minimum purchase, and they also know that they'll be coming in afterwards. So they are hopefully fully prepared at this point that they know they have to come in 2 to 3 weeks after their session. And let me preface this by saying in-person sales is a journey. It doesn't just happen overnight, and it doesn't happen after listening to a small course. You have to dive so far deep, and you have to join Facebook groups, get into groups, and surround yourself with people who have like minds, who also are in person sales, who have an overall goal of creating more money in your business and more revenue, and honestly an easy way. And for me, it's even a more fun experience to get to sit down with my boudoir clients and see their final ooh and awe over themselves, holy crap, that's me. So, and you get to be that rock again and be like, girl, look at you, hot, fierce, so good. So kind of just very briefly, I know Morgan's going to talk about IPS after me, which is super exciting. I love that. Making sure you prep your clients is so important. If they are coming into your office thinking that they're going to get all the digitals afterwards, that's a no-no. That's bad. That's not going to be good for you. And you're going to feel so awkward and feel very defeated. You don't want them to be blindsided, and you don't want to be blindsided. So making sure you prep them with your pricing guides, making them aware that this is what a reveal and ordering session is, and that's what that means. Making sure you do all of that will really help you in the long run. And, people won't come in being like, oh, I didn't know I was going to spend this much money. And you don't have to have those awkward conversations very often if you prepare people. So one of the first things you need to do when talking about in-person sales is your cost of doing business. So afterwards, and I'm sure maybe Morgan will kind of talk about this, I will go ahead and link a cost of doing business chart in the group that I really recommend, and also an app that I like called Photo Clerk. I really that is one of the first things you need to do before you start IPS. If you don't know your cost of doing business, you're just gonna create a list and have no idea what your profit is, what you need to make, what it's costing you to do all of this, how much time you're spending to do all of this, because you do spend extra time doing IPS, but it's worth it in the long run once you kind of get a hang of things. So one of the first things you need to do is that cost of doing business. It takes time, but take the time to do it. And then the last, or I shouldn't say the last thing, but one of the last things I'm kind of signing off with on the IPS is to start looking at printing companies. There are so many, but if you sign up with them, a lot of them will do 5 free 8x10 samples and send you a bunch of print samples and the style of different things. So making sure you kind of find a company that you really like and really connect with and does your work justice. You don't want to be worried about if your work is going to turn out bad after it's printed. You want to make sure it's good. So kind of making sure you find a company that you like is another important step, because that's where you're going to start working on your price list after you figure out your cost of doing business and then what printing company you like. So that's kind of where you're going to start with the price list after that. So cost of doing business is a huge step, which is why I'm kind of leaving you with that, because it takes a lot of time. So with all of that, some steps that you can kind of take is model calls. Do some model calls. If you haven't already done boudoir, make sure you like it. Even if you're just starting, you can do some more boudoir model calls. If you have the urge to get more practice in, do it up. The more practice you can get and the more buzz, which is kind of my next point, the more buzz that you can get around it and getting people to know that this is something you do and this is something you like and this is something you offer, the more people will come. So Facebook groups, that's a huge success for me. I don't even have an Instagram for my boudoir personally because I don't need it. I don't even honestly want one because it's just extra work for me. Because my Facebook group, I'm booking clients off there every week. So making sure that you kind of have that model call and you can share them somewhere. Because if you're not sharing them somewhere, nobody's going to really know about it. unless, you know, you're getting people to do referrals and stuff. And then that last thing is just, you know, before you're actually booking paying clients, and if IPS is the way you want to go, make sure you're doing your cost of doing business and creating a pricing list. Those are the two hugest steps, I feel like, when you're starting IPS, because if you're not doing those two things, you're going to go in blindly and have a bunch of stuff that might not even be benefiting you. So with all of that, so I feel like I am like, I told you I could talk forever.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Do you feel like you're ready to start answering maybe some questions?
Sorry. Let me turn you up. Go ahead. What'd you say?
I said, we have a lot of questions. Do you want me to go ahead and start throwing questions out to you?
Yeah, we can. That'd be great.
Okay. So you talked about your Instagram, the fact that you don't have Instagram. So for this business, you just have the Facebook group for this business. But you can operate your other business, obviously, on IG and on.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So for like my boudoir, I don't have a separate Instagram account. A lot of it is personal preference. I just feel kind of odd about it. I feel like a lot of my clients are more willing to give a full model release because it's a private Facebook women's only group versus Instagram. Truthfully, anybody can kind of get into it because I'm able to monitor who comes into my Facebook group. Versus Instagram is, I feel like, a little harder. So that's kind of why too.
Yeah, I totally get that. And so for model calls, where are you putting those? I'm asking a few questions first that weren't in the group, but that I thought of them.
That's okay. So the model calls, usually I'm putting those in my Facebook group. So if you're like just starting a Facebook group, you could totally, you know, add a bunch of your friends and be like, this is what I'm going to start doing boudoir. I really want to try it. Here's my model call. Make sure you're laying out what that model call entails. Because if you're not, there's a lot of unmet expectations there. But you can also, you know, do it on your Instagram. I don't even have an Instagram for my boudoir, and I still talk about boudoir on my Instagram. I just don't show photos. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still will talk about it, or I'll get people, I'll like film that I'm doing a boudoir session today, or hey, I'm doing a model call today, or hey, I need a model call for a boudoir. I still talk about it. I just don't show the pictures.
Yeah. And then what is your turnaround time for a boudoir session? Like what are you telling them is their
So usually around 2 or 3 weeks. I tell people, I try to get them at that 2-week mark. But obviously every season's a little different. Like right now I'm actually about 3 weeks. But it takes longer because I do edit pimples. I do edit bruises. You know, I edit like minor cosmetic things versus, you know, a bride. You don't usually have to do all of that.
Right. Do you ask questions to get into your Facebook group, and what did you name it? Because we learned about
I do ask questions. They're not super crazy. It's basically just asking if you're over 18, if you know this is a women's only group, and do you agree to read my rules, which my rules are just, you know, don't share photos outside of the group, you know, be kind, be, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's not anything too crazy because I go through everybody who asks and just make sure they're a real person, that they are a woman. Like I go through all of them.
Right. And then is that when your reveal session happens rather than the same day reveals?
I don't do same day reveals. I personally just don't have time. If someone needs a same day reveal, because I do have clients who come from like 4 hours away, I charge extra for that. Okay. So I charge like an extra $300-400 to do a same day reveal. But most of the time, most of my clients come in 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and then we have a reveal in my office.
Okay. Are you doing IPS on model calls?
I do personally, because most of my clients know that I set them up that like, you're getting a free session, you're getting free hair and makeup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like you are coming in afterwards and you can either spend money or you could not spend money. I do give them that option, but if they want to spend money, it's still my normal minimum $600 purchase.
Yeah. And go back to what you named your group. Like, did you name it?
So there's been a lot of controversy about Facebook and boudoir, because for a while there, they were blocking Facebook groups that had the name boudoir in it.
Right.
Weird fact. So for a while I had changed mine to like intimate portraiture, yada, yada, yada. But mine is still Alexis Boudoir VIP group. That's just what I call mine. But everybody kind of has something different. Some people will call it like the dark studio, or, you know, intimate portraiture, like I said, by Alexis Brooke. Some people will take that boudoir part out of it. It's personal preference. I don't really think it matters too much.
We have some people asking, what is your favorite printing company?
I personally, I recommend sticking with one company to start, because if you get too wild, you're going to be like, wait, who prints this and who prints that? But my prints, I go through Miller's, but my albums right now, I'm still using White House Custom Color. So WHCC. I do all my prints through Miller's just because they're quick and easy, but White House is still really good too. But I do my albums through White House just because I like their options.
We have a lot of people saying that they love you and your personality. Of course, Josh has built all of your notes in here. Let's see.
I see that. They're popping up. He's real good.
You strictly just do women's boudoir.
I do. I personally can't get into the man boudoir.
What about
I can't do it.
What about couples?
I can't yet. I don't know. I don't think I'm mature enough.
That makes me laugh, as just in general. It is starting to become a huge thing. I have noticed that couples boudoir has really started.
No, and I've had people ask me, but I can't. I'm not yet. I don't know. and I'll be super honest. I don't know that it makes me feel comfortable being in a room with another man, being a married woman. So personally, I don't know how I feel about that quite yet. Not that I have anything against it, but for me personally, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I totally get that too.
Yeah.
Okay, what other, I think we've answered all the ones that they've asked. So what other questions do you have? Does anybody else have any other questions for either in-person sales, how she mans that? Josh, do you have a question?
Yeah, in-person sales.
Josh has a question.
Does she have, how does she process in-person sales when they're there?
So how do you process it? Like, what's the flow that you go through when they arrive for in-person sales? Tell us kind of like what your structure is in order, I know for our personalities, we could be sitting there for 2 hours with them, and we don't necessarily really want to be sitting there for 2 hours.
And what is her POS?
No.
Know what that is and what your POS system is.
Yeah, so I use Dubsado for workflow and all that stuff. Automation is thebomb.com. You should not be in your emails all day long. So kind of the first thing I do is I sit them down in my office. I offer them something to drink. I offer them a snack. Again, I am your friend. This is not just a normal business meeting. So I offer them something to drink. I ask how they're doing. I talk to them. I get them open a little bit before I'm just like, here's your nudies. So I get them talking a little bit beforehand.
Oh my God.
So the first thing I do though is I do a slideshow. So I usually do a slideshow of about, so I'm going to be honest, I overshoot boudoir. I really do. I deliver anywhere from 100 to 200 photos.
I overshoot weddings. I give way too many pictures for weddings, and I just don't even care more about it.
I don't care. My clients love it. You know what? And it makes me more sales. So
yeah.
So I shoot anywhere from a final of 100 to 200 photos. And so I usually pick around like 50 of my favorite photos and put that into a super simple slideshow. Literally, when I say simple, I mean like iMovie simple slideshow. It doesn't need to be crazy. And with a little bit of music, something fun, and just go through it. And that's their first, like, oh my God, that's me. It's so exciting. There's music to it. Maybe they have wine and they're like, yes, I can't believe that's me. Yeah. And so that's their first happy experience, is the slideshow. And then once the slideshow is over, I show them all of their photos. So they see the whole gallery, and we go through and we favorite their favorites. So if they're looking at 100 to 200 photos, that's too many. It really is. For IPS, that's too many. You need to narrow it down, have them narrow it down to their absolute favorites. So if they're narrowing it down to even like 80 photos, that's still a world of a difference from 200 photos. So if they're narrowing it down to 80 photos, Then from there is where I'm reiterating my pricing guide and being like, okay, perfect. I'm so glad we picked your favorites. Now we can kind of work on what you like, what you were thinking about, and here is everything again. So I show them my pricing list again, and I actually talk them through it very in depth and show them this package includes this, this package includes that package includes this, and here's all of my a la carte. Yeah. And they're gonna see that a la carte is significantly more than the packages, because that's just how I have it set up. So from there,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say from there?
Oh, I was just gonna say, so from there is where they're like, okay, I usually will give them a couple minutes to think about it. Maybe I'll go get myself a drink, go to the bathroom quick, and come back and be like, hey, how are we feeling? You know, did you have any more questions, et cetera, et cetera. If they're partners with them, it gives them the opportunity to talk a little bit without me being there. And then usually from there is where we get to kind of dive in and figure out what we want for each thing.
Okay. Do you have set packages before I ask these other questions? Do you have packages they can just like say, I want this package, or is it all a la carte for you?
So I used to do a create your own collection. And then this past year I started with set packages and a la carte. And that's been working really well for me, for Boudoir at least, because a lot of people don't know what they want for Boudoir. Sure. So by me kind of giving them packages that they want, I'm telling what they want, they're like, oh yeah, that does sound like a great idea.
And that's kind of the question that Hannah asked. What do your clients typically do with their photos? I mean, I know that most of them are not hanging them. I know of some people that have hung them on their walls, but most people are not hanging them on their walls. So what are they doing?
So something that I preach to a lot of my clients, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of going over here. Nope. So something that I preach to a lot of my clients is to not be ashamed of yourself. And I totally understand. I get it. I have 9 nieces and nephews. I don't know that I would want one of them coming in and seeing my boobs on the wall. Like, I get it. I do. But like, I do get it. But at the same time, I make sure to take really classy photos that you wouldn't be ashamed of someone having on your wall. Because for me, I think it's really important, especially going out of high school when I first started this. It is so important to every single day reiterate to yourself that you are beautiful. And by having a photo on the wall that you love of yourself really helps reiterate that without even physically saying it to yourself. Yeah. So I kind of preach that to my clients, that like, pick even, a photo with the sweater on where it's just like partially off your shoulder and you feel so pretty in it, because like every single day you're going to look at that. And especially when you're feeling bad, you're going to be like, okay, I'm still bad. I look good. So I do print pictures. I really help.
A lot of them. So I'm guessing that a majority of them have an album. I mean, I bet most of them.
Yeah. So the majority of people, like 99% of the time, get an album. They get an album. They usually get some form of a print. Usually it's like an 11 by 14 or higher. Personally, that's because that's what I show a lot. So what you show a lot is what you will sell a lot.
Right.
So that's what I show a lot. So that's what I sell a lot of, but I also sell a lot of, I call them keepsake boxes, but they're these little guys that have like 50 small photos in them that like they can put away or they can display them. And that's really popular too, because they're small, they can get put away. They don't have to be out in the open if they don't want them to be. Okay. So that's a popular option too.
Do you set a minimum
purchase?
Yeah. So roughly what do you get for the minimum $600?
Well, so I don't even have a minimum package that's $600. So that would be strictly a la carte. So that means that they would be picking what they want for the $600. And at that price range, they'd really only be getting like, some prints and stuff. 'Cause my albums start at $800.
Okay.
So.
And how do you keep track of the favorites as you're going through? Are they put in a gallery system to where you're just clicking favorites as you go through, or how are you?
So again, I'm super simple when it comes to my IPS. I recommend Fundy. I do like Fundy, but I'm just super simple. I still go in if you have a MacBook, I go in my Photos app where I did the slideshow and I have them heart their photos. There's a little heart button and I just have them heart their photos, and then that can go into their favorites album. or not album, it goes into a favorites portion on the Photos app. And then we work off of those favorites to create everything. And then I do go into Fundy to create their album design, just not their actual reveal.
Okay.
I've just had weird issues with Fundy. It's not any other reason than my computer seems to not like Fundy.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so I think we have all of the questions answered. So if I don't see any other pop up, is there any other questions? I'm waiting just one second.
Do you find that packages limit your potential for income?
Do you find that packages limit your potential for income?
No, because I always offer upgrades. So like when I do set packages, I say like, oh, your 8x8 album starts with 20 images. Well, they favorited 80. They can't possibly get it down to 20 images. So they're going to add pictures on. They're going to add, most of the time, most of my clients end up anywhere from like 35 to 40 pictures in their album. So it does not limit your potential because you can have add-ons to that.
Okay. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get a Facebook message out to the ladies. Hold on one second.
You're okay. Oh. And I am going to post a couple things in the group for you guys.
Okay. That actually would be really awesome. I think that, and don't forget, girls, that you can definitely, hold on one second. Let me get this posted. You can definitely post under the Tuesday thread that question and tag Alexis. Alexis, let me tell you something about her. She is an open book. She will just tell you and love you and cheer you on. That's one of the things I love most about her. There is no competition. She is just like, let's all do this and be.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, let's do it.
She is, and that's what I love about her so much. So here is what's going to happen before I tell her thank you. We actually have I built in a 30-minute break in case we had some timing issues or something. Okay. So actually what we are going to do is we are going to come back to the Zoom link, and we are going to do a Q&A with you guys for about 20 minutes before Morgan starts. So you can ask any question. Alexis, if you want to come back in case people ask you questions for 30 minutes. I know Morgan's already here. I've already put out a notice on Facebook. So what we would need to do, though, is we need to close down this link, and then you will come right back to it so that we can record it and separate out the Q&A. But Alexis, I love you so much. I'm so grateful for your friendship. Oh, thank you for doing this for us. It means so much to me. So if you have questions for Alexis, obviously you can leave them there. But if you'd like to come back and ask more, I think Alexis is going to come back and join us for that Q&A time. So come right back. We'll get started.
Thanks.
Thanks.